So one of the key issues and problems that a lot of new artists can come across is starting from scratch. So they're obviously starting from a cold start. If somebody's doing that, how can they start to build an audience from scratch, and what are the first steps? I don't know who wants to take that.
First, have sort of an idea of what your brand should be like. So what do you want to stand for? Do you want to be the rockstar DJ that's pouring down vodka straight from the bottle, or do you want to be more like the studio nerd that's like in the studio playing with all these hardware synths? So I think first of all you have to have a vision for your brand. And from there on, you check what other artists that have the same branding are doing in terms of content. And then you don't copy them, but take inspiration from their content and just start putting out content, start to produce the content, post it. And from there, develop yourself. And I think producing content is like training a muscle. The more you do it, the better you get at it. Keep going from there. And then naturally, when you put out content, you're evolving and your brand is evolving. And this is what we've talked about a lot today is you have to develop a strong brand these days. And this is the first starting point. You can start with one follower and then, take it from there, put out the content. And especially for all the bigger labels, they don't worry so much about followers. They just worry about a brand, cool, like you need to be able to do stuff. You need to be able to sort of move things forward, have these projects, create content, and I don't know, just take it from there and enjoy it.
How do you even start to get followers? Because you said obviously you'll start with one follower. How do you then grow? Are there any hacks? Is there any shortcuts for helping them to do that?
It's engagement. Whereas before you were just saying like, oh, you go and follow. You're actually engaging with other people. It's the same now. So when you're starting stuff, I think one of the questions was, what are the first things that you post? You just post who you are. Be authentic. If you have this vision for your brand and who you're going to be, or who you want to be, make sure that that's translating in engagement with other content. So if you see people engaging with you and maybe go and like one of their pictures, or maybe go and comment on like a label's picture, or go and comment on like another artist's picture. The more that you engage, the more that people will see you. Social media is about two-way communication. It's not one-to-many, it's not broadcast, it's not a newspaper. It's a part where these platforms allow us to communicate with others, whether that's through pictures or videos or written form like Reddit or Twitter or whatever. The idea of it is communication, and the idea is to make sure that you're creating these authentic human connections so that you can then build together. Basically, just imagine everyone online as your best friend. And so, like, what are you going to share with them? What are you going to interact with them? So as much as they're interacting with you, interact with them, and you'll soon see people connect with you.
What I'd love to know is what you're noticing in the current trends, and what are the current algorithms in social media? What are the big do's and don'ts at the moment? What are you noticing?
Something I'm seeing, and the narrative for the past few years has been video, video, video. We've pushed it with our clients. Then it went to short form video and how can you get it quicker and snappier, etc. But something we're seeing, and I think it's a bit of a bigger comeback than Crocs, is static. Static is actually working really well if you do it in the right way. So we're seeing really good engagement on carousels. But not just, carousels of highlight images or your gigs, etc. It's more, you can actually storytell through a carousel. So Defected are really, really good at this. They won't just push about an artist playing at their event or a release coming out. They'll use that carousel to storytell, maybe some screenshots of them in the press, maybe a screenshot of them doing like a iconic tweet or something profound they've said. But also what we're seeing, particularly on TikTok, which again seems so counterintuitive to what TikTok become famous for, is carousels work on TikTok when you just put a bit of like lo-fi text on top of them. So you could do a carousel where it says, what you're doing on this date, are you free? And then it'll say the event at the end. But it's almost like you're using like meme style images in the background mixed with some photos of the event. But we saw that trend on TikTok. And it was this was for Trip Festival, which is a festival we do with Fisher in Malta. And it kind of didn't make sense, but we were leaning into it because it's what we were seeing the results for. But we've been using them a lot more on Instagram now. And I think the logic behind it is that, yes, video, I guess, blew up because it was, gives you more chance to storytell, there's more media, you can get into it. But it actually takes you a long time to consume a message on a video, even if it's quick, and you have to stick with it in that order. Like, it's very hard to kind of jump back and forth. Whereas I think people quite like the leisurely nature of scrolling through a carousel. You can go back, you can go forward. You know, you look at Fred again, and he does his like number 1 to 10 of what he's been up to that week. But I think people quite like the power of that. But actually, what you get rewarded for in the algorithm is people spending longer on the platform and longer on your post. And you probably end up spending longer on a carousel, I think, than a video, because a video, you've made your mind up in 3 seconds, you might stick with it, and then you might drop off. Whereas a carousel, I find myself just kind of scrolling back and forth between them for maybe like a couple of minutes, which is going to be better in the algorithm.